I watched a volleyball player play in the Ontario Championships, went to watch a family friend, and I watched a setter who was only about 5'5", and I was just blown away by his leadership. And he played bigger than his size. And even though it was another sport, I was so impressed with him. I shot a Monday Mindset. And as you know, TJ, I shoot these Monday Mindset videos. I shot a video about his leadership. And it stood out. If I was recruiting him, I would recruit him because of how special those other skills were. And so in addition to getting good, being able to do all of those intangibles that coaches look for. And TJ, why don't we just land the plane on that one? What are a couple intangibles that have stood out to you the most? We tell the story at PGC all the time of two-time PGC grad Ronald Nored, who became the starting point guard for Butler when they played in the 2 national championship games. I just went and visited Ronald a couple weeks ago because now he's an assistant coach with the Indiana Pacers. And Brad Stevens talks about why he recruited Ronald, despite the fact that by Brad's own statement, he wasn't a good shooter, he wasn't a great finisher, and he wasn't even a great penetrator or ball handler, and he still recruited him anyway to a D1 program. So I can share, of course, what he saw in Ronald, but what are some of the things that stand out to you?
Yeah, I think many of the things that you would talk about in Ronald, I mean, the reality of it is, I know that not every coach, but I think there's a lot of coaches like myself that want to coach players they're going to enjoy coaching. You know, it's what we do all year round. It's our livelihood. And when you see a player that smiles and gives high fives and hustles to everything that they do, they play really hard, they have a good motor. Like if they have all of those types of things, you look at a player and say, man, you can't help but to say it. I would like to coach that player. And it's just not many players stand out that way. Now, not a ton of players stand out. There are some players that stand out the other way that says, I would never want to coach that player. But the majority, the 80% there in the middle, stands out as somebody that's like, well, it's not that I don't want to coach them. It's not that I do want to coach them. They're just a player. And there's not something that stands out about them. And I think those intangibles you'll talk about at Ronald are the same ones that I'm talking about. There's just a different energy. There's a different vibe. There's a different passion. There's a different, all of those things that, would make your team better, even if they didn't play.
Yeah. And TJ, we've never talked about this before, but would you say this is accurate? If a player, you've got to be as good as the other players around you to have your special skills stand out. If you're a step slower and a step behind everyone else, you can't shoot as well as everyone else, but then you've got those leadership qualities, those intangibles, etc. If you're one step down in terms of how good you are, I think you need to be like 3 steps above in all of those other intangibles. It's not just 1-to-1. You can't say, oh, my kid's slow and doesn't and small and not a great shooter, but boy, is he an exceptional or she an exceptional leader. Like they're going to have to be off the charts to make up for being behind on those other aspects. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we're coaching to win. That's our job. Unfortunately, at the college level, I mean, there's coaches that get fired all of the time for not winning. And so we definitely need good enough players. But then I think a lot of coaches have been in scenarios too where they had plenty of good players, but they had really bad chemistry because they didn't have people that led the team and didn't have that. So you want a good mix. You want a group of players that can play together, and you want them to be good enough skill wise. And so you can't just be a cheerleader and get recruited to college, but you can be a solid, good player that has a different attributes to you that are 2, 3, 4 levels above everybody else, and you're going to get an extra look.